The first thing Adrian Cole ever gave me was a choice, and somehow that frightened me more than getting caught. At 11:47 on a freezing Thursday night in Chicago, I had $18.42 to my name, an overdue electric bill folded inside my purse, and a termination email still glowing on my phone. Rain streaked the windows of the Langford Hotel, turning Michigan Avenue into a blur of headlights and silver pavement. I had gone inside because the lobby was warm. That was the excuse I gave myself. The truth was uglier. I was desperate. I had spent 25 years believing desperation revealed character. That night, it revealed opportunity. He stood near the bar with his back half turned to me, tall, composed, wearing a black tuxedo that probably cost more than my last 3 months of rent. Dark hair, white skin, broad shoulders, no nervous movements, no checking his phone every 10 seconds like everyone else. People seemed to move around him without realizing they were doing it. I didn't know his name. I didn't know men across Chicago lowered their voices when they said it. I only noticed the leather wallet resting halfway out of his coat pocket when he draped the jacket over the chair beside him. I looked away, then back. My heart started pounding. Don't. I actually whispered it to myself. Don't become this person, Claire. Then my phone buzzed. Final notice. I closed my eyes. 3 seconds later, I was moving. I had worked crowded restaurant floors through college. I knew how to pass close without touching, how to apologize before anyone decided whether they were annoyed, how to disappear into a room full of people who considered workers invisible. My fingers found the wallet. 1 breath, 2 steps, 5. Nobody shouted. Nobody followed. By the time I reached the revolving doors, cold air hit my face like judgment. I crossed beneath the hotel awning and stopped beside a stone column, shaking so badly I almost dropped what I'd stolen. What did you just do? I whispered. I opened it. Cash. More than I expected. Credit cards. A driver's license. Adrian Cole. 34. Chicago address. His photograph showed the same calm expression I'd seen. Inside, except somehow colder without movement around it. Then I found the black card. No bank logo. No name. Just a silver number embossed across the center. Behind it was an old photograph of Adrian standing beside a woman I didn't recognize. Both looked younger, happier. On the back, someone had written 3 numbers in faded blue ink. 11, 24, 7. I stared at them. The wallet vibrated in my hands. I nearly threw it. A slim phone was tucked into a hidden compartment beneath the cards, its screen suddenly glowing with a message. I know who betrayed you. My mouth went dry. This wasn't a wallet. Not really. Whatever I had taken, money was suddenly the least important thing inside it. I snapped it closed and turned toward the hotel, already planning to put it somewhere, anywhere, and walk away. That was when I saw him. Adrian Cole stood 10 feet behind me beneath the awning, rain shining on the pavement between us. No anger. No panic. His hands rested calmly at his sides. 2 men in dark coats waited near the doors, but Adrian didn't even glance at them. He only looked at me, then at the wallet clutched against my chest. My pulse climbed into my throat. Mr. Cole, I managed. His expression changed by maybe half an inch. Almost a smile. That somehow made everything worse. Finished going through my things, Miss Bennett? Every thought in my head stopped at once. I had never met him before. I was certain of that, but he had just said my name. I should have run. Instead, I stood beneath the hotel awning with Adrian Cole's wallet pressed against my chest and wondered how a stranger knew my name. How do you know who I am? My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Adrian glanced toward the revolving doors. Inside, I would rather stay somewhere with witnesses. His eyes returned to mine. For the first time, something almost human crossed his expression. Amusement. Smart. He stepped aside instead of reaching for me. Then the lobby. That confused me enough to follow. The warmth hit first, followed by piano music and the quiet clink of expensive glassware. Nobody stared. Nobody seemed to realize that I had just stolen from the man walking beside me. We stopped in a sitting area near the windows. The 2 men in dark coats remained 20 feet away. Adrian took the chair opposite mine. My wallet. I placed it on the table immediately. I did not take the cash. I know. You did not check. I do not need to. His calmness was unbearable. Are you calling the police? Should I? I swallowed. Probably. He leaned back. Claire Bennett. 25 years old. Until 6 hours ago, administrative coordinator at Northline Property Management. My stomach dropped. How? You used your employee badge to enter the hotel service corridor at 11:38. Of course. I had forgotten it was still clipped inside my coat after being escorted out of the office. Security identified you before you reached the door. I looked toward the cameras above us. So you watched me steal it? Yes. And you let me? Yes. That answer frightened me more than anger would have. Adrian slid the wallet toward himself. Show me. Show you what? How you did it. I stared at him. You want a demonstration? I want to understand how someone with no apparent experience removed a wallet from my coat, while 3 trained security professionals were watching the room. Maybe they are not as good as you think. One of the men across the lobby shifted his weight. Adrian did not look at him. That possibility has occurred to me. I should have stayed quiet. Instead, I glanced toward the bar. The waiter distracted the taller guard. Adrian's eyes sharpened. Explain. He dropped a cocktail napkin near the west entrance. Your guard looked down. Then a man in a gray suit asked the other one for directions. Both happened within 5 seconds. Silence. You noticed that before taking my wallet? I noticed things. Apparently. He opened the wallet and removed the black card. What else? I thought about the message on the hidden phone. I know who betrayed you. Nothing. Adrian studied me long enough to make the lie feel visible between us. Then he stood. Come with me. No, he stopped. The room suddenly felt quieter. I am not going upstairs with you, Mr. Cole. He considered that, then nodded toward a glass conference room beside the lobby. Business center. Public. Visible. There. I followed reluctantly. Inside, a folder waited on the table as if someone had known we would need it. Adrian opened it and turned it toward me. At the top was my full name. Beneath it were 2 words I did not expect. Employment agreement. I laughed once because my brain could not find another response. What is this? 90 days. Doing what? Working for me. You caught me stealing from you, and your response is to hire me? My response is to determine whether tonight was luck. He placed a pen beside the contract. I did not touch it. And if I say no, you walk out that door. I searched his face for the trap. No police. No police. Why? Adrian turned the black card slowly between his fingers. Because money can be replaced. Information cannot. I remembered the coordinated distractions near the bar. The hidden phone. The message. Something had been happening around Adrian before I ever touched his coat. You think someone inside your organization is lying to you. He went completely still. I knew immediately that I had guessed correctly. Adrian closed the wallet. You stole from me because you needed money, Miss Bennett. He pushed the contract 1 inch closer. Work for it. I looked down at the salary and nearly stopped breathing. It was more than twice what Northline had paid me. What exactly would I be? Adrian's answer came quietly. My personal assistant. I looked at him. You cannot possibly need an assistant who steals wallets. No. His gaze settled on me with unnerving precision. I need one who notices what everyone else misses. I signed the contract at 12:14 in the morning, which was how I learned that terrible decisions could arrive on expensive paper. Adrian watched me write my name without saying a word. When do I start? I asked. 8. I looked at the clock. You mean tomorrow? Today. That is less than 8 hours from now. 7 hours and 46 minutes. I stared at him. You are already annoying to work for. The corner of his mouth moved. Barely. 8, Miss Bennett. At 7:58 that morning, I walked into Cole Holdings wearing the only navy blazer I owned and carrying coffee strong enough to restart my nervous system. The building rose over downtown Chicago in steel and glass. 43 stories of polished floors, quiet elevators, and employees who looked as though they had never checked their bank balance before buying groceries. The receptionist saw my name and immediately stood. Mr. Cole is expecting you. Of course he was. The elevator opened directly onto the executive floor. Adrian was already working behind a massive desk overlooking Lake Michigan. No tuxedo now. Charcoal suit. White shirt. No tie. He looked less like the stranger from the hotel and more like the reason everyone in the building spoke quietly. 2 minutes early, he said. Try not to sound disappointed. He slid a tablet across the desk. His schedule was packed from 8:30 in the morning until 9 at night. Meetings. Calls. Private lunches. Names I recognized from newspapers beside names I had never heard. Your job is simple, Adrian said. Manage my calendar, control access to this office, attend every meeting I tell you to attend, and remember what you see. That last part sounds suspiciously unlike administrative work. It is the reason you are here. He handed me a folder. At the hotel, 3 people redirected my security within seconds. You noticed? My security team did not. They are going to love me. They do not need to. He walked toward the conference room. Neither do I. By noon, I understood the real assignment. Adrian did not need someone to schedule lunch. He needed someone nobody considered important enough to watch. People ignored assistance. They spoke around us, handed us documents without looking at our faces, complained near our desks. At 12:40, a senior executive named Martin Hale arrived 11 minutes early for a meeting and asked me whether Adrian was alone. At 1:15, he left smiling. At 1:17, I noticed the blue folder he had carried inside was missing. Mr. Hale forgot his folder, I said. Adrian kept reading his computer screen. No, he did not. I looked toward the conference room. Then you kept it. His eyes lifted. Why would you assume that? Because he entered holding it under his left arm. He left holding his phone in his left hand. People usually switch hands when they are carrying something. He did not. Adrian studied me for a moment. Anything else? I thought back. He checked the hallway camera twice before entering. Silence. Adrian reached into his desk and placed the blue folder between us. You really do notice things. I told you that last night. People tell me many things, and you believe none of them. Correct. There was no pride in the answer. Just habit. That bothered me more than it should have. By 5, I had learned the rhythm of his world. Doors opened before he reached them. Conversations changed when he entered. Nobody interrupted him. Nobody contradicted him. And everyone seemed to want something. At 6:23, Adrian emerged from his office holding his coat. We are leaving. Where? Dinner. I grabbed the tablet. With whom? 3 people I have known for 15 years. He paused beside my desk. One of them is betraying me. The air seemed to disappear from the room. And you want me there because they will ignore the assistant. Exactly. I stood slowly. What am I looking for? Adrian pressed the elevator button. The doors opened with a soft chime. Do not look for guilt. He stepped inside. Look for the person trying hardest to appear innocent. I followed him into the elevator, and as the doors closed, I finally understood why Adrian Cole had not called the police. He had not hired me to organize his life. He had hired me to find the person quietly dismantling it. Dinner was at a private restaurant overlooking the Chicago River, the kind of place where there were no prices on the menu and nobody asked Adrian Cole whether he had a reservation. I sat to his right with my tablet open, pretending to review his schedule while 3 men who had known him for 15 years discussed real estate, shipping contracts, and numbers large enough to make my old salary feel imaginary. Martin Hale was there, smiling easily. So was Daniel Mercer, Adrian's chief financial officer, and Thomas Reed, an attorney whose silver cuff links caught the candlelight every time he lifted his water glass. I listened. More importantly, I watched. Martin talked too much. Thomas barely talked at all. Daniel asked Adrian questions he should already have known the answers to. None of that meant anything by itself. Then the waiter brought coffee. Daniel reached automatically for the sugar bowl before his cup even touched the table. Thomas checked his watch. Martin looked at me. Not Adrian. Me. New assistant, he asked. Very new, I said. Adrian usually hates changing staff. Adrian continued cutting into his dinner as if he had not heard. Martin smiled. How did you get the job? Unusual interview. Adrian's eyes flicked toward me. Warning received. I smiled politely and returned to my tablet. 20 minutes later, dinner ended without confession, accusation, or revelation. In the car, Adrian asked, well? Martin wanted to know why I am here. That is obvious. No. He wanted to know how I got here. Adrian turned toward me. Difference. A curious person asks what I do. A worried person asks where I came from. The city lights moved across his face. Anything else? Daniel already knew your schedule changed tomorrow morning. Adrian's expression hardened. How? Exactly. The next morning, I arrived before 7:30. Adrian was not there yet. His office door stood open, and his coat from the previous night hung over the back of a chair. I saw the wallet immediately. Same dark leather. Same object that had changed my life less than 36 hours earlier. I remembered the hidden phone. The photograph. The numbers. I also remembered Adrian's rules, delivered by email at 6:12 that morning. Do not enter locked rooms. Do not change my schedule without approval. Do not touch my wallet again. 3 rules. Naturally, the third was the one I broke. I opened it carefully. The photograph was still there. Adrian, younger, standing beside a white woman with light hair and a smile that looked nothing like his guarded expression now. I turned it over. The numbers remained, but beneath them was a sentence I had missed in the rain. Trust is always the first thing they steal. You have been employed for less than 2 days. Adrian's voice came from behind me. I froze. That might be a record. I turned slowly. He stood in the doorway holding 2 coffees. I can explain. People usually say that immediately before explaining nothing. I placed the wallet on his desk. The photograph matters. The humor disappeared from his face. That is not your concern. Then why carry it every day? Silence. I should have stopped. Instead, I pointed toward the picture. The 3 numbers are not a date. Adrian set the coffees down. Claire. 11, 24, 7. I thought they were a date, but 24 cannot be a month. They could be addresses, account references, anything. But look at the window behind you in the photograph. His eyes dropped despite himself. There is a building number reflected backward in the glass. 24/7. And the sign beside it starts with 11. Adrian took the photograph from my hand. For the first time since meeting him, his composure cracked. Not dramatically, just one breath held too long. Where was this taken? I asked. A place that no longer exists. Apparently someone wanted you to remember exactly where it stood. He stared at the photograph as if it had changed while he was not looking. Then his gaze lifted to mine. I expected him to fire me. Instead, he pulled out the chair beside his desk. Sit. Am I still employed? Unfortunately. I sat. Adrian placed the photograph between us and tapped the reflected numbers. Tell me what else you see. By 9:15 that morning, the photograph had stopped being a memory and become a question Adrian could not ignore. I spent nearly an hour comparing the reflected numbers with old property records he quietly pulled from an internal archive. 11/24/7 led us to a warehouse address near the Chicago River that Cole Holdings had owned years earlier, then sold through a company I had never heard of. Adrian knew it immediately. He did not explain why. He only closed the file and told me we had a 10 o'clock meeting. That was becoming his favorite way to avoid personal questions. The conference room filled with 7 executives, including Martin Hale and Daniel Mercer. Thomas Reed joined remotely. I sat beside the door with my tablet while Adrian took his usual place at the head of the table. Nobody looked at me twice. That was their mistake. Daniel presented a redevelopment proposal involving 3 properties on the south side. Numbers appeared on the wall. Purchase prices. Contractors. Timelines. Everything looked painfully ordinary until Daniel mentioned a private inspection scheduled for that afternoon. The location changed, he said. We moved it to Archer. Adrian nodded. I stopped typing. Archer. His calendar still listed Fulton Street. Only Adrian, Daniel, Martin, and I had received the revised internal schedule, but Daniel had told me at dinner the night before that he already knew Adrian would be changing his morning plans. A change that had not officially existed yet. Then I noticed Martin's folder. Blue again. Same shade as yesterday. He opened it and removed a printed agenda. The top corner carried yesterday's date. My stomach tightened. Do not go to Archer, I said. 7 faces turned toward me. Adrian did not move. Daniel blinked. Excuse me. I stood because sitting suddenly felt impossible. The inspection. Do not go. Martin gave a quiet laugh. Adrian, is your assistant managing property operations now? Claire, Adrian said, his voice low. It was a warning. I ignored it. Yesterday, Mr. Mercer knew your schedule was changing before the revision was circulated. Today, Mr. Hale brought an agenda printed before that change was approved. Martin's smile vanished. That proves nothing. Maybe not. I looked at Adrian. But someone wanted you at Archer before your calendar said Archer. Silence pressed against the glass walls. Daniel folded his hands. This is ridiculous. Then delaying the inspection costs nothing. Adrian's eyes stayed on mine. I could almost hear the calculation happening behind them. Everyone else was waiting for him to dismiss me. I was waiting too. Instead, he closed the folder in front of him. Cancel Archer. Daniel leaned forward. Adrian, the investors are already there. Then they can wait. You cannot change a multi-million-dollar meeting because your assistant has a feeling. Adrian turned his head slowly. I just did. Nobody spoke after that. 23 minutes later, one of Adrian's security staff entered, and whispered something into his ear. His expression did not change, but his hand became still against the table. Meeting over. Everyone filed out except me. Martin avoided my eyes. Daniel did not. His stare lingered for 1 second too long before the door closed behind him. What happened? I asked. Adrian walked to the window. The investors were never at Archer. A chill moved through me. Then who scheduled it? That is what I intend to learn. I exhaled slowly. So I was right. You were. 2 words. Nothing dramatic. Yet from Adrian Cole, they felt enormous. He turned toward me. Why did you speak when I told you not to? Because you were about to make a mistake. Most people in that room have worked for me for years. None of them would interrupt me like that. Maybe that is your problem. His eyebrows lifted. I had already gone too far, so I kept going. You surround yourself with people who are afraid to tell you when you are wrong. That is not loyalty. That is expensive silence. Adrian stared at me for several seconds. Then he walked back to the table and placed the old photograph beside my tablet. 1124/7, he said. Find everything connected to that address. I looked at him. You trust me now? Do not get ambitious. But something had changed. I could feel it. Yesterday, I had been a thief he was testing. Today, he had changed his plans because I asked him to. Adrian reached the door, then stopped. Claire. Yes. He looked back at me. Next time you think I am making a mistake, tell me before 7 executives are watching. I smiled despite myself. So there can be a next time? He opened the door. Apparently, firing you would be inconvenient. And for the first time since I had taken his wallet, I realized the most dangerous thing between us was no longer suspicion. It was trust. The first time I saw Adrian Cole look tired, it was 2:14 in the morning, and there was nobody left for him to impress. We had spent nearly 16 hours tracing the old warehouse address through dissolved companies, property, transfers, and records that seemed designed to lead nowhere. By midnight, the executive floor was empty. By 1:30, even the cleaning crew had disappeared. Adrian finally closed his laptop. Enough. You are admitting exhaustion? I am acknowledging inefficiency. That sounds more like you. He almost smiled, then stood too quickly and caught the edge of his desk. I noticed the wince. Small. Instantly controlled. What happened? Nothing. That was definitely something. Claire. Adrian. His eyes narrowed. It was the first time I had used his first name without thinking. Neither of us mentioned it. He walked toward the private kitchen beside his office, and I followed. Under the bright lights, I noticed a shallow scrape along his forearm where his shirt cuff had shifted. Nothing serious, but fresh enough to explain the way he had been favoring that arm all evening. Sit down. He looked at me as though I had suggested selling the company. I am fine. You are also terrible at following instructions. Apparently we have that in common. I found the first aid kit beneath the sink. After several seconds of stubborn silence, Adrian sat. I cleaned the scrape carefully and covered it with a small bandage. He watched my hands, not my face. Without the suit jacket, the office, and the people waiting for his approval, he seemed different. Not weaker, just human. I handed him a glass of water. Your turn. For what? A question. He leaned back. You have been asking questions since the moment I met you. Why did you let me go through your wallet? I did not. You watched me take it. That is different. Not enough. Adrian looked toward the dark windows. Chicago glittered 40 floors below us, beautiful from a distance because distance hid everything complicated. Why did you steal it? He asked. I had expected him to answer, not redirect. Still, the truth felt overdue. My mother called that afternoon. My voice came out quieter than I intended. Her furnace had stopped working. She lives outside Rockford. The repair estimate was $900. I told her I could help. Could you? No. I stared at the unopened coffee on the counter. Then I lost my job. I had $18.42 left, and I was too embarrassed to call her back and admit I had promised something I could not give. Adrian said nothing. That made it easier. I saw your wallet and thought one terrible decision might solve one immediate problem. Did it? It gave me a different problem. His mouth moved slightly. You. I assumed. The silence softened. Now answer mine. Adrian looked at the bandage on his arm. I noticed you before you noticed me. At the hotel? You were watching exits, cameras, staff movements. Not jewelry. Not handbags. You looked frightened, but you were still observing. So you tested me? I became curious. That is a dangerous personality trait. So I have been told. I studied him. And the photograph. The warmth vanished from his expression. Another night. That means there is an answer. He stood, signaling the conversation was over, but then his phone lit up on the counter. A message preview appeared before he turned it face down. Old warehouse records confirmed. Bennett connection found. My breath stopped. Bennett. My name. Adrian had seen it too. He reached for the phone, but I was already staring at him. What does that mean? Claire, why is my name connected to your warehouse? He did not answer, and suddenly I understood something far worse than whatever those records contained. Adrian Cole had not been surprised to learn who I was beneath that hotel awning. Maybe he had known much more than my name from the beginning. Adrian did not answer me for 6 seconds. I counted every one. The refrigerator hummed behind us. Rain tapped softly against the windows 40 floors above Chicago, and the city that had looked beautiful a minute earlier suddenly felt very far away. How long? I asked. Adrian picked up his phone. Claire, how long have you known my name was connected to that warehouse? His jaw tightened. Before you signed the contract. The words landed quietly. That made them worse. I stepped away from the counter. Before, I knew there was a Bennett connected to the property records. I did not know exactly how until tonight. But you knew enough to recognize my last name. He said nothing. There it was. The answer. I thought back to the hotel. His calm expression beneath the awning. Finished going through my things, Miss Bennett? I had believed the cameras explained everything. They had explained only part of it. You did not hire me because I noticed your security team being distracted. That was part of it. Part of it. My laugh sounded hollow. What was the other part? Adrian unlocked his phone and opened a document. Your father. I stopped breathing for a second. My father has been dead for 11 years. I know. Do not say that like you knew him. Adrian turned the screen toward me. An old corporate record showed a name I had not seen outside family paperwork in years. Robert Bennett. Below it was the warehouse address. He worked there? For a company my father controlled. My eyes moved across the document. Dates. Transfers. Signatures. Nothing made sense. My father sold insurance. Later, yes. Adrian's voice softened. Before that, he handled compliance records for one of our logistics companies. My family's. I stared at him. Why did he leave? I do not know yet. And the woman in the photograph. Adrian looked toward the wallet on the counter. My older sister, Evelyn. His voice changed when he said her name. Less guarded. More distant. She discovered financial records connected to that warehouse. Your father helped her preserve copies when someone tried to bury them. The room seemed to tilt beneath me. So my father knew your sister. Yes. And you knew that when you offered me the job. I knew their names appeared in the same archived file. Anger rose through the confusion. Then why did you not tell me? Because I did not know whether you already knew. So you kept me close to find out. Adrian did not deny it. That hurt more than any excuse could have. You were watching me. At first, I grabbed my purse from the chair. You gave me a desk 10 feet from your office. You had me attend your meetings. You asked me questions about my life while already investigating my family. Claire, listen to me. No. You listen. My voice shook, but I refused to lower it. I stole a wallet. I admitted it. I signed your contract because I thought you were giving me a chance to earn back something I had taken. You did earn it. That is not the point. I pulled my employee badge from my blazer and placed it on the counter between us. You did not give me a job. You put me under surveillance. Adrian stared at the badge. For once, he had no immediate answer. What happened after that changed, he said finally. Maybe for you. I walked toward the door. For me, every honest moment we had just became a question. He followed me into the dark office, but stopped several feet away. If you leave now, you may be walking away from the only chance to understand what your father was protecting. I turned. There. That is exactly what you do. What? You find the one thing someone cannot walk away from. Then you put your hand around it. His expression went still. I am trying to protect you. Then try something harder. I pressed the elevator button. Respect me. The doors opened. Adrian could have ordered someone downstairs to stop me. He could have reminded me about the contract, the salary, the records, or the danger he believed surrounded us. He did none of it. I stepped inside. Claire. I looked at him. His voice was quieter than I had ever heard it. Your father was not the thief in those records. My hand froze above the button. What? Adrian held my gaze. He was the person who discovered one. The elevator doors began closing between us. And I think the same person is still working for me. I made it 3 blocks before I realized freedom could feel exactly like fear. Chicago was nearly silent at that hour, the sidewalks shining beneath streetlights after the rain. I kept hearing Adrian's last words. My father had discovered the thief. The same person might still be working for him. Every instinct told me to turn around and demand the rest of the truth. I did not. Respect had to mean something, even when walking away hurt. I reached my apartment shortly after 3 in the morning and slept badly until someone knocked at 9:17. I opened the door expecting my landlord. A courier stood there holding a small package. Claire Bennett. Yes. He handed it over and left. No note outside. No Cole Holdings logo. Inside was Adrian's wallet. I stared at it for a long time before touching it. The cash was gone. The black card was gone. The hidden phone was gone. Only the old photograph remained, along with my employment contract folded neatly behind it. Across the first page, Adrian had written 4 words in black ink. You owe me nothing. Beneath his signature was confirmation that the 90-day agreement had been terminated with full payment for every hour I had worked. No penalty. No condition requiring my return. I sat at my kitchen table and read those 4 words again. Adrian Cole, a man who controlled rooms without raising his voice, had finally done the one thing I had accused him of being unable to do. He had let go. I should have felt relieved. Instead, something bothered me. The photograph. Why send it? I removed it carefully. Evelyn Cole smiled beside her younger brother, frozen in a moment before distrust had become his natural language. I turned it over. Trust is always the first thing they steal. 11, 24, 7. I stared at the numbers until my eyes hurt. Then I remembered the old property file. Warehouse 1124-7 had been sold through a company Adrian said he did not recognize. But I recognized something now. Not the company name. The formatting. Every document Daniel Mercer had presented used the same unusual date style, month written out, day followed by a period, year shortened to 2 digits. The archive transfer record used it too. That could be coincidence. Then I noticed Evelyn's photograph had a faint rectangular mark near the bottom edge, as though something had once been taped behind it. I held it beneath my kitchen light. 3 letters remained in faded pencil. DM. My heartbeat changed. Daniel Mercer. I grabbed my phone and searched the notes I had made during my first 2 days at Cole Holdings. Daniel knew about Adrian's schedule before the change was circulated. Martin carried the suspicious folders, but Daniel always seemed to know where Adrian would be before everyone else did. Martin had attracted attention. Daniel had supplied information. I called Adrian. Straight to voicemail. Again. Nothing. Then I remembered today's calendar. 9:30. Private meeting with Daniel Mercer. Location, the old warehouse property. No, I whispered. I checked the time. 9:26. I called the executive office. No answer. Security. No answer. My fingers tightened around the phone. Adrian had released me from the contract, which meant I had no authority, no access, and absolutely no reason to involve myself anymore. 4 minutes later, I was in a cab heading toward the river. I kept telling myself I was only bringing information. Nothing more. The driver turned onto an industrial street lined with renovated brick buildings and old loading docks. Then my phone finally rang. Adrian. I answered immediately. Where are you? His voice was sharper than usual. About 2 miles from the warehouse. Silence. Claire, turn around. Daniel Mercer is connected to the old transfer records. Another silence. Longer this time. How do you know? The photograph. Evelyn left initials behind it. Claire, you sent it to me. I sent it because it belonged to your father's story too. I did not send it so you would come back. I know. The words surprised both of us. I looked through the cab window at the river appearing between buildings. That is why I am coming. His voice lowered. You do not work for me anymore. Exactly. I closed my eyes for 1 second. So this time, Adrian, you cannot order me to leave. The cab had barely stopped when I saw Adrian standing outside the old warehouse, one hand holding his phone, the other tucked into the pocket of his charcoal coat. He looked furious, not the loud kind. Adrian never needed volume. I told you to turn around. I paid the driver and stepped onto the sidewalk. And I reminded you that you are not my boss anymore. His eyes narrowed. You crossed half the city to make that point. No, I crossed half the city because Daniel Mercer has been lying to you for years. That silenced him. I handed him Evelyn's photograph and showed him the faded initials. Then I explained the date formatting, the property transfers, Daniel knowing Adrian's schedule before anyone else, and Martin's blue folders. Adrian listened without interrupting. That frightened me more than an argument would have. Martin was the distraction, I said. Daniel wanted you watching him. Adrian looked toward the warehouse. Daniel is inside. Then do not walk in there accusing him. What do you suggest? Make him believe you still suspect Martin. For 3 seconds, Adrian simply stared at me. Then he did something I had not expected. He listened. We returned to Cole Holdings instead. By noon, Adrian called Daniel into the conference room and calmly announced that Martin Hale had been suspended pending an internal audit. I sat outside with access to the company records. Daniel left 20 minutes later looking relieved. 7 minutes after that, his account accessed an archived server nobody had touched in 6 years. Then came the transfer request. Old property files. Financial records. Warehouse 11/24/7. Everything being moved toward deletion. I called Adrian. Now, within minutes, the access was frozen and copies were secured by outside counsel. No shouting. No dramatic confrontation. Just records, timestamps, signatures, and years of carefully hidden decisions finally becoming visible. By evening, Daniel had resigned and the evidence had been turned over to the appropriate authorities. Martin was cleared. My father's name was cleared too. Robert Bennett had not helped steal from the Cole family. He had helped Evelyn preserve proof when nobody else would. I sat alone in Adrian's office holding the document that confirmed it. My father had spent the final years of his life never telling me what he had done. Maybe he had wanted to protect me. Maybe silence had been the only protection he understood. Adrian stood beside the window. I owe your father more than I knew. You do not owe me for what he did. He looked at me then. You sound familiar. I smiled despite myself. On his desk sat the wallet that had started everything. Adrian pushed it toward me. Keep it. Why? You seem unusually attached to it. I laughed softly. It was the first easy sound either of us had made all day. No, you keep it. Afraid. You will steal from me again. I met his eyes. No, you do not have anything I need anymore. Something shifted in his expression, but he did not stop me when I stood. He did not offer another contract. He did not remind me of the salary. He simply nodded. Then I hope whatever comes next is yours. I reached the office door before I understood what he had just done. He had given me a choice without hiding another one behind it. I looked back. Adrian had already returned to the window, letting me leave. That was when I realized I wanted to stay. Not because I owed him. Not because he had rescued me. Not because he could command half the city and make rooms fall silent. Because when it finally mattered, he had learned not to command me. Adrian. He turned. You still need an assistant. His expression remained perfectly controlled for almost 2 seconds. I thought you did not need anything from me. I do not. I walked back toward the desk. That is what makes this different. He glanced at the empty chair beside him. There will be rules. I already dislike them. You have not heard them. Experience. This time, he actually smiled. Months later, I would sometimes think about that freezing night outside the Langford Hotel, when I had $18.42 and enough desperation to reach into the wrong pocket. I thought I had stolen a wallet. What I really took was one step into a life I never could have predicted. And Adrian, he taught me something stranger. Trust is not what someone can take from you. It is what you choose to give after they finally give you the freedom to walk away.